Right now on the National Weather Desk, northeast storms. What was once Hurricane Beryl spawns tornadoes, damaging winds and flash flooding in upstate New York.
Have you ever seen storm damage quite like this?
No, never before.
While Texans continue to clean up and wonder, when will the lights come back on?
It's terrible. It's so not fun.
Brutal heat bakes much of the western United States.
Now, the forecast calls for highs around 115 degrees as this heat dome builds over Utah.
As searing temperatures and strong winds make it tough to fight wildfires in Oregon.
Sure sign of summer in the Pacific Northwest. Smoke-filled air.
And the story of a man, his dog, and a river rescue in California.
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
Good morning and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm meteorologist Steve Rudin from WJLA-TV in Washington, D.C. The remnants of Hurricane Beryl stormed through the Northeast yesterday, bringing heavy rain, damaging winds, and at least 5 reported tornadoes. Damage was widespread from the Buffalo, Rochester, Syracuse areas and all areas in between. We have 2 reports this morning, starting with Daniel Finkelstein.
Oh my goodness gracious, look at that.
High in the sky, an EF1 tornado, now confirmed to have touched down in Forestville in Chautauqua County. Strong winds from that storm throwing debris and tearing a roof off of a home in Arkwright. A second tornado is also now confirmed, this one in Erie County, touching down just after noon in the town of Eden. There, Catherine Mamosser would discover her family farm destroyed after receiving an emotional phone call telling her to get home from work.
When I pulled in here, there was about 50 people here helping, and there was people that I haven't seen in many years here. Like, it was just kind of an all-hands-on-deck situation, getting the animals relocated so that they're in a safe environment. We had our calf barn, which were all where the little calves were. It literally came out of the ground, picked up, and blew into a field. They had nothing left.
We're told none of the animals were hurt. Back in Monroe County, our Van Bortle Subaru mobile weather tracker showing torrential rain on area roads. And in Waterloo, neighbors saying no one was injured after a tree fell on a house, piercing the home's roof and falling into the living room. People working through hours and through heavy rain to prevent any further damage.
In Oswego, heavy rains and wind were coming off Lake Ontario, providing a fast amount of rain down in just minutes. When we were in Fulton, dark clouds were forming over Lake Neetawana, just waiting to open up. In Brewerton, one homeowner had a tree fall right on the top of his house, breaking beams in the attic. In Baldwinsville, neighbors receiving damage they're telling our team they haven't seen in a long time.
So in 22 years, have you ever seen storm damage quite like this?
No, never before. 84 was the last one that went through here.
While this neighbor is thinking about recovery now, the moments of the storm happening will live with him.
The way it came through, the back of my house, you couldn't see across anywhere. The pool, you couldn't see anything. Where here, on the other hand, just things were flying.
About 90 minutes north of Syracuse, a state of emergency is in effect after heavy rain triggered flash flooding. Water was seen rushing into homes and over roadways, making many impassable this morning, still closed. The National Weather Service confirms 9 inches of rain fell yesterday. Remarkably, no one was injured. It's now been 3 days since Beryl made landfall in Texas. As of this morning, more than 1 million customers are still without power. And with the area under a heat advisory today, staying cool is a real issue, especially with heat index values nearing 105 degrees. Driving through Houston is difficult because a quarter of the city's traffic signals are not working. Power is also out along the coast where people are trying to return to a sense of normalcy. Sydney Ferguson reports.
2 days after Hurricane Beryl rolled through the Bolivar Peninsula, residents have returned to their homes on the coast. Mindy Brooks stayed during the storm.
I stayed in a house and the garage door looked like it was blowing in and out. The wind hit me and it almost blew me over. Yeah, I was like, whoa.
Brooks says her home wasn't damaged and most only dealt with debris, but the nearby Stingery restaurant took on 3 feet of water.
It's terrible. It's so not fun. You get a layer of mud that coats everything. There's a heavy loss of equipment. I mean, there's $100,000 worth of equipment that's not there anymore.
The area is still without power, which Brooks says is causing an issue getting gas.
When the gas did get here yesterday, the guy didn't know where to pump and the machines didn't work.
New this morning, the National Hurricane Center is monitoring a small disturbance. It's just off the coast of northern Florida, Georgia, and South Carolina. Not much to worry about as it has just a 10% chance of becoming a named storm. The system is forecast to bring much needed rain if it does come ashore. As for what was once Beryl, was a storm that started way back in June. Meteorologist Kevin Cochran has more.
Now, speaking of Beryl, have you heard about this? The history of Beryl, it was a tropical entity for more than a week and a half. It became a tropical storm east of the Lesser Antilles back on June 28th. And then it made not one, not two, not three, but 4 landfalls. 3 of them as a major hurricane. The island of Grenada, then eventually Jamaica, the Yucatan Peninsula, and Matagorda, Texas, south of Houston, was the most recent landfall as a Category 1 storm. Now, this storm was responsible for at least 28 fatalities and $6 billion in damage.
Encouraging news this morning about dangerous heat that has gripped parts of the mid-Atlantic and western United States yesterday. A bit of a break for some. Although 63 million Americans are under heat alerts today, that's less than half compared to just 2 days ago. California, Nevada, Arizona, and Utah have the most heat-related alerts today. Meteorologist Chase Thomason is in southern Utah with more.
Excessive heat warnings are in effect for the rest of the week here in Red Rock Country, St. George, Utah. It's a city just north of the Arizona border near Zion National Park. Now, the forecast calls for highs around 115 degrees as this heat dome builds over Utah Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. The all-time record high for the state of Utah and St. George is 117. We're going to be very close to that number. To help the power supply, city officials are urging residents to avoid high-demanding appliances like ovens and dishwashers and EV chargers. Now, good news, a little bit of relief is coming their way until early next week. Temperatures dropping to about 100, which is actually closer to normal. We also need a little bit of rain in this area. You'll see a little bit of haze. That's actually smoke. Several wildfires are burning in the area. It's been 72 days in a row with no rain in St. George. We're hoping to break that dry streak sometime next week. Reporting in southern Utah, I'm meteorologist Chase Thomason.
Firefighters in Oregon are battling a wildfire that started Tuesday and quickly grew to more than 7,000 acres. Between high temperatures and gusty winds, firefighters are having a tough time getting the flames under control. Shelby Slaughter has more on the Lorch Creek fire.
Sure sign of summer in the Pacific Northwest. Smoke-filled air. The Larch Mountain fire near Dufur exploding along Highway 197 in Wasco County.
It was huge.
Robin Coleman lives really close to where the fire is burning.
Because it's right behind us right now.
Coleman says he's trying to wait as long as possible to evacuate.
If I see fire up there, then I'm out. And then I have to go.
Hurt Zoutendijk is a spokesperson for the Oregon State Fire Marshal. He says things are moving quickly and the wind is making it hard for firefighters to do their jobs.
Normally winds die down at midnight, somewhere 10 o'clock. It didn't die down until like 4 a.m. So normally when the fire dies down, we can take a little breather. It doesn't move as fast. It kept moving.
He tells me the fire is human caused. An investigation is underway into how it started, and the person responsible could pay a hefty fee.
They cost a lot of money, and we're talking millions.
Rescue crews have been busy in California. Yesterday, a California Highway Patrol helicopter crew rescued a man who was kayaking on a river east of Sacramento. Local fire department was called in for help because of swift water rescue and steep terrain. The boater was found sitting on the river's edge. That person was then hoisted to safety. In Fresno County, also in California, a man and his dog were rescued after becoming stranded while kayaking. The sheriff's office says the man lost his kayak in the river. He and the dog made their way to a downed tree and waited for help. Deputies not only saved both the man and his dog, but they also retrieved the kayak, allowing the duo to continue down the river. Deputies did note that the dog was wearing a life jacket. And coming up on the National Weather Desk, the impacts Saharan dust can have on hurricane season. And a closer look at the many types of waterspouts that can form this time of year.
I'm meteorologist Charlie Lopresti with a look at the Northeast. The back edge of yesterday and last night, showers and thunderstorms have made their way off to the Northeast. We'll see a decent amount of sun, especially in New England today. It's going to be very humid once again. 80s and low 90s are expected. Now, the exception in the Northeast, parts of New York, areas that got the tornadoes yesterday, you will see some more clouds. It's not quite as sunny there. Then as we go into Friday, it's another hot day, not quite as humid. We should be in the 80s. We'll introduce some more wet weather on Saturday.
I'm Chief Meteorologist Gerard Bailey. Here's a look at the mid-Atlantic region. Nice and dry for your Thursday. Not expecting rain chances to return until Friday with a stalled front bringing good rain chances throughout your afternoon. It will keep things a lot cooler. Afternoon looks like it's going to be a lot cooler here. We're talking about the upper 80s, only low 90s with lower humidity. Your Friday afternoon will be even cooler with all the rain and clouds around. Mid 80s to help really break this heat wave.
I'm meteorologist Vitas Reed. Here's a look at your forecast highs for the day. We're looking at 92 degrees in Raleigh, 93 Charleston, 91 in Atlanta, making about 94 degrees, Mobile 93, down in Tampa 90. It looks like we'll see plenty of hot sunshine across the southeast through much of the day. There are going to be some coastal storms along the Carolina coastline east of I-95, but then we're also watching this little circulation off the coast of Florida and Georgia. About a 10% chance of maybe some tropical formation there. We'll watch that through the next several days.
Weather Window, presented by the National Weather Desk.
With these billowing clouds above Las Cruces, New Mexico, it looks like a storm was brewing. In the background, some clouds appear to drop rain just as this dust storm rolled through the foreground. And these eagles in this Alaskan city appear unfazed by the human taking this video. In the city of Unalaska, eagles are pretty much everywhere.
Want to see your weather photos and videos on TV? Click Chime In on this station's website to share.
Evacuation orders are in effect in Northern California as wildfires continue to burn. It's making skies across the region look a bit more hazy than usual. But is the haze a health hazard? Sarah McCoy spoke to an air quality expert to find out.
The haze appears to affect Siskiyou, Modoc, and Trinity counties the most, although it is still very visible all across the North State. Shasta County Air Quality District Manager Rob Stahl says although you can see the haze outside, the real-time air quality monitors in Shasta County are still reading moderate air quality, just one step below good air quality.
Our air quality isn't being impacted too significantly by these fires, so we'll just have to keep an eye on it and see, hopefully it gets better.
While the wildfire smoke can pollute the atmosphere, there are some benefits that come with heavy smoke that help firefighters contain the fire. Shasta and Trinity Unit Assistant Chief Troy Valine explained the advantages to me. He said the smoke can actually choke out and snuff the fire by keeping the sun out of it and keeping it out of the wind. However, there are some disadvantages that come with heavy smoke besides the poor air quality. Valine says once the fire penetrates the smoke inversion, it is directly related to a sharp increase in fire behavior, similar to taking a lid off a boiling pot of water. Valine tells me detecting new fires or using aircrafts are very difficult due to visibility.
One factor that can help lessen the risk of hurricanes is Saharan dust. Meteorologist Charlotte Carl gives us a closer look at how dust from Africa can impact tropical storm development.
We've been talking a lot about Saharan dust recently, specifically as it relates to our local forecast, but it also relates to the tropical forecast, specifically when we talk about the main development region of the Atlantic, which is where storms develop typically this time of year. Now, when dust gets brought off of the western coast of Africa, a lot of the time it takes a similar path to the hurricanes that we see that come off the western coast of Africa as tropical waves. Now, when we talk about ingredients that hurricanes need to form, we talk a lot about moisture and warm water temperatures. But when Saharan dust comes into play, especially in the mid-levels of the atmosphere, not only can the dust reflect some of that sunlight back into space, but it also cools down the water temperature as a result. Also, the Saharan layer of air dries out this mid-level of the atmosphere, so it also takes away this component of moisture that the tropics need for development of these tropical waves and tropical storms, which is why we generally see less development when we talk about Saharan dust moving off the coast of Africa.
As Beryl made landfall a couple days ago, it spawned several tornadoes. One weather phenomena that is often confused with tornadoes are waterspouts. A look at a recent TikTok post from meteorologist Charleston Clark explains the different types.
Waterspouts are relatively similar to tornadoes. It's just that waterspouts, well, they form over water. And there are two types of waterspouts. You've got fair weather waterspouts and tornadic waterspouts. We're going to start off with tornadic waterspouts, and these are going to have similar characteristics as regular land tornadoes. They're often going to be associated with severe thunderstorms, which means that they can contain those gusty winds, that hail, and that lightning. And then you've got the fair weather waterspouts. These are typically going to be less dangerous than those tornadic waterspouts, but I would still highly recommend you don't try to get close to one if you are out on the water. But these typically form during calm or fair weather. So what is the key difference between a tornadic waterspout and a fair weather waterspout? Well, it's going to be how they form. So your tornadic waterspouts are going to form just like a regular land tornado. They're going to start from the top and then work downward through that thunderstorm. And then those fair weather waterspouts, well, those are going to start at the surface of the water and work their way upward. And by the time you see that funnel on that fair weather waterspout, it's already nearing maturity. Now, it is still very important to note that fair weather waterspouts are still dangerous, and you do not want to get close to one.
All right, when it's hot outside, inside a car can quickly become a dangerous place to be. A recent Facebook post from meteorologist Caroline Cohen shows just how hot your car can get.
It's early July, which means we are just starting off with that summertime heat. Not only will our air temperatures be scorching in the 80s and 90s, but that also means places like your car are going to get super hot as well. In fact, even if the air temperature is just 70 degrees, after 10 minutes in a closed car, it will be 90 degrees. Now, let's say it's 80 degrees outside. 20 minutes in a closed car, it's reading 109 degrees. And after 60 minutes, it would be 123 degrees. If temps are even hotter, 90 degrees or so, your car will be at 119 degrees in just 20 minutes and 133 degrees after an hour. Make sure you let the car cool or crank up that AC before you hit the road on these hot summer days.
Weather balloons are a common tool meteorologists use to measure temperature, wind, humidity, and pressure. Let's take a deeper dive at how they work. Here's a recent Instagram post from meteorologist Chicago Widler.
This is Paul Ura from the National Weather Service office down in New Braunfels, bearing gifts.
Gifts, yes.
So what is this?
So what this is kind of a whole package of when you hear weather offices launching weather balloons. We do them all around the United States, plus all around the world twice a day. That's how we get a lot of data. So what we have here is a radiosonde. So this is basically a little weather station. It has pressure, humidity, and temperature on it.
And it says harmless weather instruments, just in case this ends up in your yard. Harmless.
Right, don't freak out too much. Right, it is a harmless weather instrument.
Okay.
This is a very small one. Some of them are a little bit bigger than that. So as it goes up in the atmosphere, it will take weather observations and send them back down to the ground. This is the actual weather balloon.
Which is massive.
Right. Not inflated right now.
These twice a day?
Twice a day around the world.
Okay.
And then, of course, when the balloon pops, it actually will come down sometimes with a small little parachute. Now,
Shoot.
now this little small one usually doesn't have a parachute because it's so small. But for the offices that use a slightly bigger one, they will still use a parachute like that.
Awesome. So if you ever hear us talking about weather balloons being released or a radio song, here you're seeing exactly what it is.
All right, let's check weather across the country today. We start with a look at downtown St. Paul, Minnesota, the other half of the Twin Cities. It's heating up with temperatures today in the mid-80s, and by the weekend, they'll be in the 90s. South to Atlanta and a view of the skyline. Hot and humid will be the name of the game as over the next few days. Highs will be well into the 90s. Next, we head to Osage Beach in the Lake of the Ozarks. It's in Missouri. It's a beautiful day to be in central Missouri, as always, with partly cloudy skies and highs in the mid to upper 80s. And finally, we head west to Flagstaff, Arizona, while only 140 miles north of Phoenix. It has an elevation at nearly 7,000 feet, and that makes a big difference. High temperatures in Phoenix will be 115 today, while in Flagstaff will be in the lower 90s. And that's about 10 degrees below normal for this time of year. And before we take a short break, let's soar over Utah's Bona Reservoir.
Well, good Thursday morning, everyone. I'm meteorologist Andrew Buck-Mike. We have a few pop-up showers and storms possible across the Ohio Valley for the day today. Not a lot of rain, but it's going to start heating up over the next several days. We're in the 90s in the Dakotas, 97 in Wichita, but Wichita expected to get up into the triple digits the next couple of days, and it just keeps heating up across the area. Any rain's pretty spotty for your Friday, same for your Saturday. Most of the Midwest staying dry, but again, those temperatures keep heating up a little bit more each of the next few days.
Good Thursday, I'm meteorologist Joe DiCarlo. Look at our forecast and a very summer-like pattern. We'll have a few isolated little pop-up showers and storms through the day. High temperatures mainly in the mid-90s to those upper 80s from Corpus Christi to Houston to New Orleans for your day today. On your Friday, we'll continue with that scattering, especially closer to the coastline of a few pop-up showers. We'll start in the 70s. We'll go back seasonal into the 80s and 90s for afternoon highs.
Well, hi there, everybody, and a good Thursday morning to you. I'm meteorologist Shannon O'Donnell. The heat just continues to bear down on us out west. We're talking about triple digits day in and day out around the Valley of the Sun and back into Las Vegas as well. Reno at 104. We have finally cooled down in the PNW, just 80s later today as we head into the afternoon in Seattle. Big ridge of high pressure, certainly the weather maker. Look at the dry weather through most of the west as a result. And that's the scene from here.
You are watching the National Weather Desk.
It's peak season for cherry picking in Wisconsin. This year saw an unusually warm winter and a wet start to the summer season. Eric Peterson spoke to a local cherry farmer to find out how the weather has impacted this year's crop.
When it comes to picking tart cherries, Donna Bukowski says she searches for the low-hanging fruit.
It looks very good. As you can see, lots of them, lots of ripe ones. Incredible. It's good.
Bukowski is one of dozens taking to the orchard at Melody Cherry Farm. Owner Tom Selvik expects the yield from the 40-acre site to be above average.
The crop is pretty huge. The color is great. You know, we had a little issue with a lot of rain. It affected the leaves a lot, but it looks like they're progressing really well.
All you got to do is wash them, drain them, freeze them, can them, juice them, whatever it is you want to do with them.
We'd love to share your unique weather content on air. You can find us on all your favorite social media platforms, including Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. Just search the National Weather Desk. We're back after this. Thanks so much for joining us this morning. I'm meteorologist Steve Rudin from WJLA in Washington, D.C. Hope you have a good day.